Welcome, you beautiful savages, to the Ketogenic Diet Review. This is my 39th week following the Ketogenic Diet. I don't do time off. I don't do cheat meals, cheat days, cheat weeks. I don't do carb loading or carb cycling. I just don't eat carbs and I don't eat sugar. And I've been doing that for 39 weeks. I've lost a lot of weight, about 100 pounds in those 39 weeks. I've also just become much, much healthier, man. Like I had pre-hypertension before, and now my blood pressure's beautiful. Everything overall much, much healthier. And so I like to do reviews of the ketogenic diet. I've been doing it since day one. So anybody that listens to this or watches these videos on YouTube, I should say, I often refer to this as a podcast. And that's because it started as a podcast, and you can find the podcast in iTunes under Neanderthal Radio. And every week I do a review. I talk about what's on my mind, how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking about, and then just things pertaining to the diet, recipes or a cool product I found or just different things that I think can help. So you can check out the podcast. All 39 weeks are there. You can see the journey. In the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. Still don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm much better at it at least. And those of you that listen to the podcast, there's YouTube videos, so you can check them out as well. Last week, in preparation for the new year, one of the most common things that I hear in New Year's resolutions is people want to lose weight. And I think it's the most popular New Year's resolution is I want to lose weight. And officially, as of 2016, the second most popular diet-related search term is ketogenic diet. So kind of hand in hand. Number one resolution, lose weight. Number two way of doing it through a diet, based on Google search terms, ketogenic diet. So in preparation for that, last week we did 10 things no one tells you before starting a ketogenic diet. I wanted to do that because I hadn't really done anything for beginners in a while for the ketogenic diet. It's kind of been more for people who are already following it. And so I thought it'd be fun to go back and talk about some things from a beginner's perspective. And then also I thought it was humorous, that one, because when I started this diet, I didn't know anybody that was doing a ketogenic diet. I found out about it through the Joe Rogan podcast and through Tate Fletcher. And I thought it was very interesting. They were talking about these, mental clarity and everything. I started reading, it seemed almost like some fucking, some hokey pokey shit, like you're going to get psychic powers. And I still have not gotten my psychic powers, but I hear they're on the way. But there was nobody else doing it that I could talk to. And in the 9 months, I've met more and more people doing it. My wife is doing a ketogenic diet. My best friend is doing a ketogenic diet. So you're able to share your experiences with people. And then also with people that listen to the podcast and people on Instagram. And I've met more and more people doing a ketogenic diet. And I started to see that there's a shared theme that a lot of people experience the same things. And so that's why last week we did that one. It's kind of humorous, just to see some of the funny little things that people deal with. This week I want to do kind of a part 2 to that. And because the diet is becoming so popular, you have more and more people doing it. You have more and more people talking about it. And sadly, either not everyone is doing it right, and so they're talking about it, but they're not doing it right themselves. So the information they have is construed. It's not accurate. And then you just have people that are openly criticizing it because it goes against what they want to believe, which is vegan or, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But you get a lot of misconceptions. That's the point. And so this week, I want to go over the misconceptions. I'm going to try to keep this short, specifically for people that are watching on YouTube. Nobody likes to watch a long YouTube video. But like I said, it's a podcast as well, and they usually always go long. So check out the podcast. Number one, I wanted to start with this one because it kind of annoys me the most. And I think it's dangerous because it dissuades a lot of people from even trying this diet. And that's that the ketogenic diet is a fad diet. So this has become something that I'm hearing more and more about a ketogenic diet and also about the paleo diet. So it's kind of a pushback. There was a push for the ketogenic and paleo type diet, and I kind of lumped those together for a reason. And it's because both diets are heavily based on the fact that this is how humans evolved eating. And it's like, I've kind of compared it to this. The ketogenic diet and the paleo diet, they're neighbors, and they borrow each other's sugar. And I like to say sugar because neither diet allows sugar, obviously. But both diets are very similar, and they're both based on the principle of human evolution and how humans evolved eating. So paleo diet says they evolved eating this way, and a ketogenic diet says, yeah, we did, but also in times of like, winter or whatever, berries and grain and vegetables were not plentiful at all. So humans evolved solely on their ability to go into a state called ketosis. And ketosis is when your body is burning its own fat for fuel. You're replacing your glucose stores, with fat. And your body's now burning, ketones, your body's fat, converting it to ketones, burning that instead of burning glucose. So that's the main kind of difference between the two diets. But there's been a pushback now on people saying like this whole functional health and primal way of eating and looking at humans as a species, rather as these godlike creatures that can just eat whatever they want and have no consequences. We start to look through evolution, we didn't eat certain things like grains. And so maybe we're not supposed to be eating them. And for a while that made sense to a lot of people, even more people than were actually following these diets. And then now there's kind of a push, like people don't want to have to sacrifice things, or they think that these diets are too extreme. So there's been a pushback. And so the ketogenic diet is being labeled a fad diet because people want to dismiss it. They want to dismiss, what the ketogenic diet is about. And like I said, man, it's the farthest thing from a fad diet. If the body wasn't able to run on fat, then there's no point to the diet. But the fact that your body can efficiently run on ketones, and did for a very long time throughout human evolution, kind of defeats the purpose of this. I mean, kind of debunks this being a fad diet. Fad diets are like the fucking cucumber water diet, where you just drink water and lemon and cucumber for 3 days and lose a bunch of weight. Those are fad diets. Ketogenic diet is an effective diet. Number 2, the ketogenic diet is a lose 10 pounds in 3 days diet. So this is on par with number 1. And it's almost as bad too, because if somebody goes into a ketogenic diet because they believe it's a lose 10 pounds in 3 days diet, it has the same negative outcome, because you may lose some weight initially. I've talked about it in the early podcasts. I lost a lot of weight, man. Like in the first 2 or 3 weeks, I think I lost 20 something pounds. And then after that, I was losing 6 pounds, 6 pounds, 6 pounds. And then now it's steadied out at about like 2 pounds, which is nothing too amazing. But what I think people got to realize is, instead of being so caught up in I have to lose X amount of weight by X amount of time, is to think about the type of weight you're losing. And the reason I say that is on other diets, you may lose somewhere in the region of 20% fat. For each pound you lose, 20% of it is actual fat that looks ugly on your body. You know what I mean? If you're thinking about it from a cosmetic standpoint. On a ketogenic diet, it's astronomical. It's 90 to 95% of the fat you lose is fat. It's the weight you lose is fat. So that's why you'll hear on a ketogenic diet people refer to weight loss as fat loss. You don't really hear too many ketogenic diet people talking about how much weight I lost. You refer to fat loss. So I think it's important to think about that as well. And just to kind of understand, man, not to get too preachy, but to kind of understand that, like, it may, depending on how unhealthy you are, how much weight you have to lose, you got that weight through unhealthy decisions over time. So, give the ketogenic diet a chance. Like, if it took you a while through making unhealthy choices to get out of shape and to feel like shit, maybe it's going to take you a little while through healthy decisions to get to a good place. So, number 3, the ketogenic diet is dangerous, malnourishing diet that makes unfounded statements and is only followed by hipsters. So I think a lot of this whole dangerous aspect of a ketogenic diet is one of two confusions. One is this kind of belief that fat equals fat, and that eating fat causes heart disease, and high levels of cholesterol cause heart disease, and that a ketogenic diet increases your level of cholesterol. And also it's confusion with something called ketoacidosis. Ketosis is not at all the same thing as ketoacidosis. So for the first part of that, this belief that fat equals fat, it was kind of pushed, man, like maybe 60, 70 years ago. They made this correlation between fat on the body and people being unhealthy and having heart disease. They were starting to deal with obesity for the first time. And so it was a natural kind of link. Fat people have heart attacks, They eat a lot of fat maybe because they have fat on their body, and bam, done. The second part of the cholesterol, and this is funny, man, and this is going to blow a lot of people's mind, is there's no actual link between cholesterol and heart disease. And the only thing they've ever found in studies is that people that die of heart disease have high levels of cholesterol. Some of them, not all of them. And they link that the cholesterol must have caused the heart disease. But they've never studied it, and there's no study proving that cholesterol causes heart disease. And I'm not scapegoating around it, and I'll tell you why that's important to make that distinction, is because cholesterol has actually been shown to decrease the risk of heart attacks and all sorts of things, dementia, Alzheimer's, good cholesterol. And there's different types of cholesterol. Also, and this is a big thing, there's a thing called triglycerides. And triglycerides are not at all cholesterol. They're cowboys. Think about them as cowboys, okay? And cholesterol is a horse. And the cowboy gets on the horse's back and rides the horse into your heart and fucks shit up, man. Because he's a lawless cowboy. He isn't a good cowboy. He's a fucking outlaw. So he gets on that horse and he goes in your heart and he's fucking up the saloon. You know what I mean? And cholesterol gets blamed for it. But it's not the cholesterol, it's the triglycerides. And the reason that's important too is because on a ketogenic diet, triglycerides are severely suppressed. Also, a lot of the issues that people suffer from nowadays, like metabolic syndrome, which is this weird kind of cluster of everything. You're fat, your heart's all fucked up, you got high blood pressure, your insulin's through the roof, you got diabetes. They're just like, just call it metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is also improved on a ketogenic diet. You lose weight, your blood pressure is severely, normalized. Like I had pre-hypertension, man. Like my blood pressure was pretty high. And within 3 weeks, it was low. My doctor was amazed, man. And your insulin is suppressed, so you don't got to worry about things like diabetes. It's funny, too, when I went to my doctor, and he saw that, and he's like, well, that's not real. It's only been 3 weeks. You're not possibly getting any healthier. And then, like, 4.5 months in, he was just kind of like, okay, this is looking good. And then, like, 7 months in, just recently, he's like, shit, man. He's like, this is awesome. He's like, and I think he even made like a passing comment like, oh, you've been taking the medication I gave you? He's like, no, he said, I think we can take you off the medication. I was like, what medication, dude? He's like, I didn't put you on medication? I was like, no. He's like, how did everything improve? How did you lose this weight? And how's your blood pressure better? I was like, dude, following a ketogenic diet. He's like, oh, ketogenic diet, huh? And I could see he didn't really know what I was talking about. So I told him, I was like, look, I don't eat carbs. He's like, oh, that's good. And I was like, and I eat lots of fat. He's like, well, we better watch that. It's funny, man. I talk about that a lot in this podcast because it kind of, to me, just sums up this kind of belief. It's like you're healthier, you're better, but I somehow have to be worried because I'm eating higher levels of fat. It makes absolutely no sense. And actually, there's a few really good studies that have come out. I've talked about them in older podcasts that kind of debunk this belief that ketogenic diet is harmful, man. Like they actually put obese people on a ketogenic diet for a year. And at the end of that year, everybody was healthier. Everybody, man. We're talking about like across the board. Cholesterol was perfect. Blood pressure, heart rate, pulse, everything, man. Like levels of, what do they call it? Blood glucose, insulin. Like people had become the healthiest they'd ever been. And there's absolutely no negative long-term side effect. The second part of that whole danger spook thing is ketoacidosis, which ketoacidosis is a deadly level of ketones in your body. And people think like, oh, I can eat enough fat on a ketogenic diet to push ketones. That's what I thought. I was a little scared when I started this diet, to be honest with you. Like I said, not too many people were talking about it. There's a lot of misinformation and a lot of kind of construed information back then because nobody really knew too much, I believed if I ate too much fat that I could somehow create so many ketones in my body that I could get ketoacidosis and die. And in fact, most of the ketogenic diet articles you read, 9 months ago was like, well, just be careful you don't get ketoacidosis. And they're not linked, man. It's not at all the same thing. Ketoacidosis is what alcoholics get, and it's what diabetics get when the ketones are out of control and shit. But unless I think you're a type 2 diabetic or type 1 diabetic or a severe alcoholic, there's no threat of ketoacidosis. There's no danger of the ketogenic diet. And if you're a severe alcoholic or type 2 diabetic, you probably have other more pressing health issues to worry about than a ketogenic diet, to be honest with you. Number 4, keto test strips tell me I'm in ketosis. So the reason I wanted to include this is because that's become this thing where, those that don't know, a keto test strip is a pregnancy test basically for people that are on a ketogenic diet. You piss on it, every morning, every afternoon, whenever, and it changes colors from tan to dark purple. And the darker the color, the more in ketosis you are, so to speak. And the reason I say that those are a misconception is because they're not accurate, man. And the reason they're not accurate is because they're highly influenced by levels of dehydration, your last meal, when's the last time you ate, what did you eat. If you ate something like a lot of vegetables and maybe you ate some carbs, you're going to have a little insulin there, your levels of ketones are going to be slightly scaled back. Also, if you just had a Bulletproof coffee or whatever and you had a ton of MCT oil, your shit's going to be through the roof. The main problem with keto test strips is they don't actually measure if you're in ketosis. They only measure if ketones are in your urine. And the reason this is worth noting is because somebody who's super unhealthy, who eats McDonald's every meal, they're eating a shit ton of carbs, but they're also eating a lot of fat. So the body is creating ketones. It's just not using them, so it's pissing them out. So you're going to have a lot of ketones in your urine because your body is disposing of them. Actually, funny, in preparation for this, I went and bought a thing of the keto strips, and I've been urinating on them the last couple days, and I'm not in ketosis, man. Like, it doesn't change color. It's very light tan, which is like negative or trace amounts of ketones. But if I take my blood and I test my glucose levels and my ketones in my blood, I have a healthy, optimized level of blood ketones. And the reason that is because my body is using the ketones it's creating. It's not pissing them out. It needs them. My brain needs the ketones. My body needs the ketones to run. My muscles need them. Everything needs the ketones. So it's not wasting them. It's using them. It's optimizing them. It's storing them instead of just pissing it out. So that's why maybe for the first month, if you want to see like, hey, is ketones being created, then you can pee on the stick. But a couple months in, it's pointless. And at a certain point, it's going to throw you through a loop because you're not going to have ketones anymore. I knew this after 3 months. I stopped registering ketones. I had to do research. I had to talk to people. And then I found out about that and I stopped using it. But still, I see a lot of people, man, that have been doing it for a while and they either become dissuaded, heartbroken even a little bit because they're like, oh, I'm not creating ketones anymore. What happened? Is my body not liking a ketogenic diet? It's like, it doesn't work that way. Or some people are like, dude, I ate fucking Olive Garden last night and I'm still in ketosis. Like, no, you're not, man. Your body's still creating ketones. You're just not using them. Number 5, the blended coffee, or bulletproof coffee for all you label whores, is enough to create the effects of ketosis without actually having to follow a low carb diet. So this was kind of pushed more by the tech people and in the Silicon Valley, which is where kind of the bulletproof became popular. It's like, if you drink this coffee with lots of fat from the butter and lots of fat from the MCT oil for breakfast, then you create the state of ketosis, instant ketosis in the body, and you can run on it and blah 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 blah. And a lot of people think bulletproof coffee created the ketogenic diet, and it did not. Ketogenic diet has been around for 100 years, man, easily. Doctors discovered the ketogenic diet as a way of treating epilepsy in children, and one of the side effects was people became healthier, man. Like health, I don't know what you call them, variables or what the fuck ever, leveled out, and also people lost weight, especially overweight people lost a lot of weight. And so, but this was a diet initially to treat children that had suffered epilepsy as kind of a last resort thing. And so bulletproof, it kind of like started with this coffee, and then they had their bulletproof diet where they're like, hey, don't eat so much grains and stuff. But people started to think like that just having a blended coffee is enough to have the health benefits of a ketogenic diet or to have the accelerated weight loss. And this is why I mentioned, like, I don't do cheat meals, man. Like, on a ketogenic diet, I don't believe there's any such thing as a cheat meal. Like, you cannot, oh, I'm going to eat every other day. I'm going to eat a lot of carbs. And it's like, your body has to stay in this state. Like, your body has to become efficient at burning ketones. And the only way it does that is through burning ketones. You got to give your body enough fat over time that this is the way it functions now. And for me, the preferred source for my body of energy is now fat. My body's looking for fat. If it's not getting it, it's burning it. It's not thinking about glucose anymore. It doesn't remember glucose. And so I think that's where something like the blended coffee, the belief that you could take this blended coffee and that's that, it's super flawed. You have to do it the right way. And this is where I say, like, you see people, and this is where a lot of these misconceptions are coming from, is people are not doing the ketogenic diet the right way. They're doing it halfway or partial way, and then they're saying, oh shit, it doesn't work. I didn't get any mental benefits. I didn't get any weight loss. And it's like, you didn't do the ketogenic diet the right way. Number 6 is this kind of confusion about how many net carbs are we supposed to eat. Are we supposed to eat 20? Are we supposed to eat 30? I heard athletes can eat 100. I heard that if you ride your bike 3 times a week to work, you can eat 60 grams. And it's kind of like no one knows, man. And this whole belief that if you're really going to the gym, you got to cycle up. You got to have every Saturday eat 300 carbs. And dude, it's nonsense, man. Like it's really crazy the amount of discrepancy that there is between the amount of net carbs you have to eat. Look, eat around 20 to 30 net carbs. It's that simple, man. Could you get away with eating more? Sure, of course you can. Can athletes eat more? Some. LeBron James follows a ketogenic diet, at least when he's training, and he eats somewhere like 100 net carbs a day. He can do that. Some of you who sit at a desk all day, you could probably do that too, because your body's more efficient at burning the glucose. It doesn't spike as much insulin. You're probably insulin resistant at least a bit. I mean, if you're overweight, odds are you're suffering from some insulin problems, but people are a little insulin resistant or whatever. And so they're super efficient at burning insulin, and you can get away with eating more carbs. But this whole like kind of trying to figure out exactly where you have to be, if you care that much, put away the keto strips, buy a fucking blood glucose tester, test your ketones in your blood, find out where you can be. But it's also worth knowing that certain foods, man, like popcorn, have a higher GI count. With GI is the glycemic index. It's a good way of gauging how food is going to spike, your insulin levels. And that's really what a ketogenic diet comes down to, is suppressing that. And that's why some sugar alcohols are allowed on a ketogenic diet, because they don't spike the insulin. And so, if it's that important to you to know exactly how many net carbs you can eat, go buy a blood glucose and just test it, man. Like, especially in the beginning stages, get in ketosis. It's going to take you a few days. You may get the keto flu. You'll get out of keto flu. And then just test it. Play around with it. Your body will see when it's no longer creating ketones. And then you're like, hey, that's too many carbs, or that's the wrong food. But probably the easiest way is just eat between 20 to 30 net carbs. You can go a little over. Whatever, man. But it's nonsense. It's nonsense, all this different like debate, and like it's almost like people are trying to fucking figure out theory of relativity and if you can time travel. It's like, well, if you eat 30 on Tuesday and you ate 40 on Wednesday, it's like, dude, it's not that serious, man. Number 7, gluten-free, sugar-free, and grain-free are all keto-friendly. There's a nutritional menu on the back of every product. Look at it. And the reason I say that is because whatever's on the front, it doesn't matter, man. Like that shit, those statements that they put on the front of products, they're not regulated. You can put really whatever you want, and it doesn't matter because it's not regulated even in the littlest. You can put organic, fucking keto friendly, whatever, and then you look on the back and it's just all processed shit, tons of sugar. Those declarations that they put on the front of products are not regulated by the food organization, anybody. All that's regulated is the nutritional menu. So look at the back of the nutritional menu, because I've seen lots of product that are pushed as, paleo, lots of products that are pushed as like, not so much keto, because you're not really seeing too much. I've only know of a few products that are being marketed as keto, and one of them is a fat bomb type thing, and it has 6 net carbs, which is a bit high. You can still do it, but it's a bit high for a keto product, you know what I mean? But you have to look at the back of the nutritional menu, because these products that are gluten-free, oftentimes they have a shit ton of carbs. Same thing with your sugar-free. A lot of times your sugar-free has a ridiculous amount of sugar alcohol, which, like I said, the sugar alcohol is generally safe on a ketogenic diet because it doesn't spike the insulin. But that's not 100%, man. Like me personally, I've felt sick before from eating too much sugar alcohol. In fact, we did a taste test, me and Alex, who also follows a ketogenic diet. We do the ketogenic diet together sometimes, and we did a taste test of keto-friendly chocolates and sugar-free chocolates. And man, I felt sick after that. Like it fucked my body up a little bit. So, you know, don't necessarily just automatically believe that something is going to be keto-friendly just because it's being pushed as such. A lot of that goes back to the rise in popularity of the ketogenic diet. A lot of people, a lot of companies are going to try to create sugar-free or low-carb versions of food to try to get to that population. And you got to really be smart about which ones you choose to go for. And in line with that, number 8 is these ketones in a bottle that'll amplify your ketone production, help avoid keto flu, and allow you to eat more carbs and still stay in ketosis. So these are new, and there's 3 companies that I know of that are really pushing, and some of them are getting backing from different people, and I'm not going to say the names of any 3 of them because they're all horse shit, man. Keto supplements are a funny thing because it's something your body's already creating. It's almost like those testosterone supplements. It's like boost testosterone. It's like your body's already creating testosterone. Well, you get more. It's not steroids, man. You don't get that much more testosterone. It doesn't fucking work. You know what I mean? You're just wasting money. Same thing with the ketones. It's like, well, it's endogenous ketones, whatever, you know? What's the point? Your body, just eat some MCT oil, man. You save a ton of money. You're giving your body something that it can immediately put into action. You don't know what's in this keto stuff, man. Like in these ketone supplements, like you don't know what's in that for one thing. So you don't know how it's creating ketones. You don't know that it's actually even really creating more ketones. And, you know, one of the biggest ones they say is like, well, if you take this product and you measure your blood ketones, you're going to see a spike in ketone production. And it's like, bro, if you take 2 tablespoons of MCT oil and measure your blood ketones, you're going to see a huge spike in ketone production. And that's even if you're not even following a ketogenic diet, you'll see that. So I think that, again, that ties into the popularity of this diet and this diet becoming more popular. You're going to see more people, you know, more companies trying to sell you some shit. Eventually, if the ketogenic diet becomes popular enough, it'll just look like GNC, just a bunch of nonsense. And when you go into GNC, it's like what in there works? Amino acids, creatine, protein. Everything else, nonsense. None of that shit works. And it's kind of the same thing with a ketogenic diet, man. You're going to start to see a lot of supplements being pushed. And you just got to remember, like, the basics of a ketogenic diet are all you need to succeed in a ketogenic diet. You don't need to buy people's products. You don't need, I'll never try to sell you a keto supplement because you don't need it, man. Like, it's not something that's necessary. Eat avocado, eat MCT oil. You're good. You'll create ketones. Number 9. And I kind of touched on this a little bit, but athletes and active people need more carbs or should eat more carbs, and that you need to cycle in order if you're an athlete. And so I put a note here that I want to read. It said, once fully adapt, your body uses fat as fuel. Even lean athletes have as fuel. Even lean athletes have somewhere around 20,000 calories of fat stored in their cells compared to glucose burning athletes who only have about 2,000 calories worth of glycogen on the muscles in the liver. And it's like, so basically you burn your fat or burn your muscles. I wanted to put that note because I get the numbers mixed up sometimes, but basically the point of that is this belief that you're not going to have enough energy if you're on a ketogenic diet. When, you know, if you're following a ketogenic diet, you have at least, and that's athletes, man. I'm talking about lean people. Someone like me who still has like fucking fat to lose, you know, I got probably like fucking hundreds of thousands of calories worth of fat. Lean athletes have at least 20,000 calories worth of fat that they can burn at any given time. When compared to anybody who has decent amount of muscle mass, you have maybe about 2,000 calories of glycogen in your muscles and on your liver to burn. And so literally, like, that's what you see with endurance athletes. It's when you're in that endurance phase, you're burning muscle, man. Like, you're not burning fat. And that's the problem too with people that are doing like cardio. When you start a New Year's resolution and you're like, I'm going to go do an hour of cardio. And it's like, okay, but you realize that your body's going to start burning your muscle, right? In order to get energy to continue with that cardio, you're going to start to destroy your own muscle. Whereas if you're on a ketogenic diet, and there's a couple endurance athletes that are breaking world records, and they're following ketogenic diets. And it's amazing, man, because you have the fat stores there to get the energy from, and you're sparing your muscle. So And then number 10, the keto diet is an unrealistic, unsustainable diet. And that's probably the biggest push that you're seeing from people when it comes to the ketogenic diet. Like really dietitians and shit, like if you talk to people like sports doctors, sports health people, and you talk to them about a ketogenic diet, really the number one thing that that they have to say is that it's unrealistic to be able to eat that way for a prolonged period of time, that you have to sacrifice too much. You have to sacrifice sweets, and you have to sacrifice all the things that we enjoy. And so following a ketogenic diet takes the enjoyment out of eating, which it doesn't. I mean, to me, I believe the ketogenic diet is the easiest diet to follow. I mean, I never thought I would do podcasts talking about diets or think that a diet is an amazing thing, because diets fucking suck, man. Like, who wants to sit there and eat a portion of chicken the size of your fist and, you know, eat some brown rice and fuck that shit, man. Like, I don't measure shit, to be honest with you. Unless I'm making fat bombs, I don't measure how much chicken I'm eating. I don't measure how much of this and that. Like, if I'm hungry, I eat. And if I'm not hungry, I don't eat. And when I am hungry, I eat until I'm not hungry anymore. And that's pretty much the easiest way to eat. Sure, I don't eat certain foods. I don't eat cookies, and I don't eat sweets, and I don't eat even really fruit. But you don't miss those after a certain period of time. Like, you don't miss the foods you don't eat anymore, because you kind of change the way you see food. So for me, I don't see a chocolate cake as food anymore. I just see it as something that's been created in a lab almost, and that they're trying to feed to you. It's not real food anymore. So take it for what it is. I mean, for me personally, I feel like the ketogenic diet is the easiest diet to follow, and it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing anything at all. And those are the 10 misconceptions that I feel are the most dangerous in a ketogenic diet. Thank you for listening. We'll have more podcasts and videos next week. Goodbye.